I don't think I have them because I don't.
Yeah, this one's
Oh, this one's mine. All right, thank you.
Everybody ready? Okay, it's 6:30. I'm going to call the Historical Preservation Board to order. Can we have a roll call, please?
Mr. Sprecher,
Here?
Mr. Mrzinski,
Here.
Ms. Hallett,
Here.
Ms. Ryan.
Okay, good. Before we get started, is there anybody that has any comments they want to make? Public comments? Okay, hearing none, we're going to keep on. Okay, first we have to approve some minutes, so we'll get on to that. We have to approve January 3rd this year. Minutes, do I have a discussion or anything, or a motion?
I move to approve.
Okay, second?
Second.
Okay. Can we have a roll call, please?
Ms. Ryan,
Yes.
Ms. Hallett,
Yes.
Mr. Mrzinski,
Yes.
Mr. Sprecher.
Yes. Okay, we go on to the second one, March 7th.
I'll also move to approve.
Okay,
Okay, I second that.
okay, it's been seconded. We have a roll call, please?
Ms. Ryan,
Yes.
Ms. Hallett,
Yes.
Mr. Mrzinski.
Yes.
Mr. Sprecher.
Yes. One more, April 11th, the minutes,
I make a motion to accept that as presented.
as presented, okay.
I'll second it.
Okay, again, can we have the,
Ms. Ryan,
Yes.
Ms. Hallett,
Yes.
Mr. Mrzinski,
Yes.
Mr. Sprecher.
yes. Okay, now for our attorney, can you go through the quasi-judicial?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir, Mr. Chair. Good evening, everyone. This is a quasi-judicial hearing. In a quasi-judicial hearing, the board is required by law to make findings of fact based upon the evidence presented at the hearing and apply those findings of fact to previously established criteria contained in the Code of Ordinances in order to make a legal decision regarding the application before it. The board may only consider evidence at this hearing that the law considers competent, substantial, and relevant to the issues. If the competent, substantial, and relevant evidence at the hearing demonstrates that the applicant has met the criteria established in the Code of Ordinances, then the board is required by law to find in favor of the applicant. By the same token, if the competent, substantial, and relevant evidence at the hearing demonstrates that the applicant has failed to meet the criteria established in the Code of Ordinances, then the board is required by law to find against the applicant. That having been said, do any members of the board wish to disclose any ex parte communications with any of the applicants?
No.
Hearing none, does any member of the board have a conflict of interest regarding any application before it tonight?
No.
No.
All right. Hearing none, we can go ahead and swear in everyone who's going to be giving testimony before the board tonight. If you plan on giving testimony, please rise and raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
So sworn. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, we'll go on to the first application, 2231. This is on 208 North Spring Street, installation of new driveway and walkway. Staff, do you have a report?
And just for purposes of the record, Mr. Chair, I believe the address was 208 North Spring Boulevard instead of street. So
Oh.
just to keep the record nice and tidy.
Gotcha.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Appreciate that.
Yes, sir.
Good evening, Caroline Lamford, Principal Planner with Tarpon Springs Zoning and Planning and Zoning. We're here today to discuss application 2231. The applicant is Francisco Valencia. And this slide shows the location of the subject property on North Spring Boulevard at Canal Street. This slide shows the location of the property within the historic district. It is at the it's at the very limits of the local historic district and just outside of the national district. This slide just shows you that it appears on the 1919 Sanborn map. And this application is requesting approval to remove a portion of the existing driveway and install a new circular driveway, parking area, and walkway to North Spring Boulevard. An existing gate would be removed to shield the parking area and air conditioning unit. The subject property is a contributing structure in the neoclassical revival style. And this is the picture from the Florida Master Site file. It shows the neoclassical elements, including the oversized two-story columns, the full height entry porch, and the symmetrical front entrance and fenestration. And here are just some more recent photos of the subject property. This is from Spring Boulevard up at the top, a little bit of the west side of the house from Spring to your bottom left, and the east side to your right, bottom right. So here's some background information about the property. The existing circular driveway doesn't meet our current code. However, it was constructed prior to the adoption of our current code, so it is considered a legally non-conforming. This is because the width of the two driveways, the circular driveway, there's a 9-foot driveway close to the intersection of Canal and Spring, and then there's another driveway entrance near the existing garage structure, and the existing width of those is approximately 35 feet at the garage, and then 9 closer up there to Spring Boulevard. So we would not permit this to be built today. However, as I show you at the bottom left, this is a 1980 aerial, and it was constructed then, so it's legally non-conforming. This shows kind of a conceptual site plan for it. That green there at the bottom right is that existing driveway entrance that would be removed. Just north of that, in the yellow there with the dots, is the existing driveway that would be removed and then replaced with the brick pavers. And then the remainder is all new that would be constructed with those brick pavers. The applicant proposes 12 feet for the width of the driveway portion and 7 feet for the walkway portion leading to Spring Boulevard. And this just is that site plan superimposed over an aerial to try and give you another kind of concept of what I'm talking about. This slide shows the dimensions of the brick pavers that would be used, but the color is better shown in this picture provided by the applicant. This shows the existing gate that would be relocated to closer to Spring Boulevard so that it would shield that air conditioning unit that you're seeing and the cars being parked. Okay, this slide highlights your relevant standards for review. When we're looking at new construction consistency, we have to think about how this proposal would change the relationship to the open space between the structure and the street, the neighborhood and district context, and if cars were to be parked in this driveway, in the circular portion of the driveway, it would kind of change the relationship between the structure and the street. However, that is why the applicant has proposed putting that new driveway on the west side of the house and moving the fence so that it would not be used primarily for parking. The landscaping, it seems that historically, this property has been of a kind of great lawn style with a lot of open grass, palm trees and oak trees. However, that has changed a little bit over time. Some trees have been removed, some new trees have been put in. And while the pavers would be a change to the historic landscaping, it wouldn't be inconsistent with the character of the neighborhood. As I've shown, I think it's in the next one, you can get a better look at it. The neighboring properties have existing walkways that lead out onto Spring Boulevard, so that would be, and you can see that one at the top has a kind of circular structure up there, so that would be consistent with the neighborhood. So relevant guidelines from the Design Review Guidelines Manual, establishing a new pattern may be appropriate if it's compatible with the historic context of the street on a case-by-case basis. The materials need to be consistent. The applicant is proposing brick pavers, which would be consistent with the brick street on Canal Street and neighboring adjacent walkways that neighbors have. Lost my place here, sorry. So a new driveway configuration can be permitted, but alternative parking areas must be available so vehicles don't block or detract from the historic facade. Again, that's why the applicant has proposed the new parking on the west side. And again, from the Design Review Guidelines Manual, the considerations about altering historic layouts, textures, and materials. You can see there, it's considered a good alternative to establish a new circulation pattern that's compatible and complementary to the historic design. I think the symmetry of the circular driveway and the two arms of it coming out would be compatible with the symmetry of the historic style of the home. So finally, I would say that the proposed project meets the Secretary's standards because the additions and exterior alterations don't destroy any historic materials. The new work is going to be clearly different than the old work, and these additions could be removed and would not affect the essential form and integrity of the historic property. Furthermore, the project would be constructed in compliance with the Land Development Code, the Florida Building Code, and it balances the goals, objectives, and policies of the comprehensive plan. Additionally, because the existing driveway is illegally non-conforming, this would bring this property closer into compliance with the code. So based on that, staff is recommending approval of application 2231 as presented for a certificate of approval with the condition that the circular driveway is not used as a parking area and would not obstruct the historic facade of the property, and that the certificate of approval would expire in 3 years if a building permit has not been issued. And with that, I'm open to any questions.
No? Okay.
I just have a quick one. When on one of the other slides, you mentioned the landscaping. Is there any other landscaping that's required with a project like this?
No.
Okay. Thanks.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Applicant? The applicant, would you like to give a presentation or?
Sir, if you could, I'm sorry to interrupt you just as you start. Would you mind approaching the microphone, stating your name and address, please?
Hello, my name is Francisco Valencia. I've lived in Tarpon Springs since 2011. Recently purchased a home in April of 2021. And we've been really focusing on restoring the historic nature of the home and inside and out. Currently, the driveway doesn't meet our requirements at all. I mean, the driveway's too narrow. We can't even park the cars there. It's only 7 feet in its current nature. So what we're trying to do is make it so it's in compliance with code, and I appreciate your support. We've gone back and forth and tried to make sure we fall in line with the code. So I think we found a good compromise and some symmetry, and also I think it's going to improve the view of the home and the value of really what it brings. The trees and stuff that were there previous were not there. If you look at the original design of the home, there was a walkway that went to Spring Boulevard that is no longer there. So we're restoring it, but we're also creating a pathway where we can get to the west side so we can park the vehicles. And then the circle drive will also allow us so that way you can walk up and get to the front of the home. Currently, the front of the house is on Spring Boulevard, and since we've lived there, everyone comes on the side or comes in around through the garage. So it would be nice to come in through the front of the house. So I appreciate the board's consideration with that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Does the board have any questions to ask? Okay. Public comment. Did we receive any emails on this?
We did not.
Okay. Public comment? Or anybody affected by it? Okay. We're going to close the public comment then. Okay, do I hear a motion?
Oh, Mr. Chair, perhaps, I don't know if staff would like an opportunity to offer a summation or closing.
Sure, I would just say that I'm appreciative of the applicant working with me, going back and forth so many times and coming up with something that meets his needs and gets closer to the code.
Yes, sir. And does the applicant have any closing remarks?
The experience has been great. So, like I said, it's been very, collaborative. So I appreciate, there's things that were out of code, and she's like, "Oh, we can't go that way." So there was a lot. Let's just put it that way. I think probably 12, 13 times we've gone back and forth, but I think we found a compromise. So I just hope the board finds in favor of it. So thank you.
Sorry to interrupt, Mr. Chair.
Oh, no problem. Okay, do I hear a motion?
I'll move to approve application 22-31 with the staff recommendations.
Okay,
I second.
okay. Okay, is there a discussion anybody want to talk about? Before we vote? I, for one, think it's a very nice design. It's very well done. It's really complements that house along with it. It brings that house into the other houses on North Spring Boulevard. It's very well done. Okay, can we have a vote?
Ms. Ryan?
Yes.
Ms. Hallett?
Yes.
Mr. Mrzinski?
Yes.
Mr. Sprecher?
Yes. Thank you very much. Thank you. Okay, we'll go on to the second application. This is application 2248, 160 East Tarpon Avenue. This is replacement of an outbuilding.
Actually, it's not replacement of an outbuilding.
Oh, it's adding
It's adding a new
okay.
display structure. I'll
Okay.
explain what it is in a minute.
Well, that is a new structure. That's
Yes.
exactly right.
This is the fun one. So, the City of Tarpon Springs is applying application 2248, and we're seeking a certificate of approval to erect an accessory structure for the storage and display of the historic Tarpon Springs jitney vehicle adjacent to the south side of 160 East Tarpon Avenue, which is the historic railroad depot.
Oh, yeah.
So here is the location of the subject property on East Tarpon and Pinellas Avenue. Here is the subject property's location on the, located within the National Register District as well as the local historic district. So the request, as I stated, was a certificate of approval for the accessory structure, which is essentially a glass display garage for the jitney vehicle in the public right-of-way south of the historic depot. The architectural style of the depot is masonry vernacular. It is on the National Register of Historic Places in its own right, in addition to being a contributing structure to the districts. And this picture is just a historic photo of the depot. And these are current pictures of the location of the new structure. It would be located right where the red truck and blue car are parked. There's just another view of the location. And this is showing the 1909 Sanborn map, the location of the historic depot there. But also, here is a historic 1926 article from the Miami Herald talking about the experimental bus service that has been installed in Tarpon Springs, taking folks around town. And then here we have another article from 1948, I believe, saying that no trip to Tarpon Springs is complete without a jitney ride. We see here in the late 50s, the jitneys were still going strong, and then in 1958, jitney service was discontinued. However, they came back in 1970 for a small period, but in 2015 article, we see how the Historical Society has raised $35,000 to restore the historic jitney. It's been a local fixture at local parades. Here it is actually shown located where the proposed accessory structure. Here's a site plan of what's being proposed. Ed Hoffman is here. He is the architect who donated his services for this structure. So if he wants to talk in more detail in a little bit, I will let him do that. These are just some renderings. So we have our standards for review. This structure is consistent with the surrounding area. It's got some elements of old Florida style, the standing seam metal roof, for instance. But it's simple. It's consistent with other accessory structures in the area. It fits into the neighborhood context, but it's not pretending to be a historic building. It is still clearly quite new. The size and massing, it would be, the depot's rather large, and it would be much smaller, so it would be subordinate to the primary structure. And I think that adheres with the Secretary's guidelines. It would be constructed in conformance with the Land Development Code, the Florida Building Code, and balances the objectives, goals, and policies of the comprehensive plan. So there are some guidelines for review that are relevant. So in your design guidelines review manual, it states that a new garage should try and not necessarily replicate, but be consistent with the style of the primary building, which, as I said, I think it does. It would not impair the essential form and integrity of the historic property if it was removed in the future. It's not creating a problem that can't be undone if it's considered a problem. And it has, again, compatible scale, massing, and style of the primary structure. So overall, I feel that it conforms with the guidelines review manual. And therefore, I would recommend approval of application 2248 as presented with the condition that if a building permit is not issued, it would expire within 3 years. And we did not receive any responses to the public notice.
Okay, thank you. Any questions from the board? Okay, the applicant, you want to give a presentation or?
Hi, I'm Ed Hoffman, president of the Tarpon Springs Area Historical Society. And the staff presentation was excellent.
I'm so sorry, sir. I don't mean to cut you off. Would you mind stating your address for the record?
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
I'm also the architect, and our office is here in town, 29 West Orange Street.
Thank you, sir.
It's Hoffman Architects, actually formerly Hoffman Architects. After 40 years, we're now Wanamaker Jensen Architect Hoffman Studio. So, exit strategy. So, this, just to point out a couple of things, thank you for putting that slide up. Some of the things that, turn it on. Would be helpful.
You can come down here and use this.
Okay, that as we look at the street,
Do you want to come down here?
you want me
and
up
use
there?
it? You can,
Okay.
sure.
Down to move to the next slide.
Gosh, the fancy table. All right, thank you. As we look at the site plan, just a couple of things that are going to happen, particularly as we think about materials and all. The building, this is showing the existing porch of the depot. This is our new building, which is a totally separate building. We're thinking about going to add a landscape feature here. There's diagonal parking. The idea being that we try to protect the view as we look down the street so that people don't feel like the building is so much in the street. And of course, right now it's, the two cars are parked there, the parking spaces. So material-wise, we want to use brick and keep all of that very consistent with that, the brick street the way it is now. Is this the go button to, yeah. Oh, do I should go?
The down button goes forward.
Oh, we just go backwards? Okay, that's fine. I can go backwards. As you can see, the building is fairly open building. That's kind of the whole point of it, is to be able to display the jitney 24/7. So anybody out there on the sidewalk can come by and see it. And currently it's housed in the city warehouse over here, and no one ever gets to see it. And so that'll be a big change. We're going to air condition it, dehumidify it, so that we can keep the car in good shape and keep the mildew off of it and that kind of a thing. We'll be able to have access also on the backside. On the backside of the building are, two basically old doors that hinge, and so that we can roll the car out and take it and put in parades or wash it or whatever we need to do with it. We'll be lighting it. On the side here, there's been a number of people that were in the fundraising of this several years ago that were, it's a huge community effort. So we have a bronze plaque that we have, and we want to be able to maybe set that, along with the history of the jitney there. So it's also very informative to somebody walking up to it. Oops, let's go this way. Just another view. Here's the porch and the building. We're thinking too about having bioswales. We're just in the process of hiring the civil engineer to have that really programmed, because we have a lot of course, water coming down Court Street. And so we're putting the water, the building there. And so, they've got to, meet the challenge of getting water to go around. But we're also thinking that we'll improve the area with having some green there that will capture some of the water before it just simply ends up down on the trail and on Safford. There's one thing that they, I don't think made it into this, that the sign, the the sign that's here, for the Tarpon Springs sign,
Yeah.
staff, oh, is it in this? Keep going. Okay, yes, thank you. It made it to the program, it made it to the show. The staff pointed out, and that was a good call, that the sign is located down lower. And so part of this thing is that we'll probably want to raise the sign that's on the building, the Tarpon Springs sign, so that if you're coming down the trail, you're able to visually see that, so we're not taking away, it's not hidden behind the roof when you're looking at a distance. So that is pretty much the explanation of the building. I can certainly answer questions. Color-wise, we have a, little, color panel. But, did I drop something? I thought I did, but maybe not. The colors are very, similar to what you're seeing there. Well, not in this one so much, but the other one with the light green roof. And then the white trim, and then the base color of the building, kind of a gray, a warm gray. And then we might, even though we have the white trim around, we might have the storefront that the glass is inset into, do that in dark, like a dark bronze, so that the glass seems more expansive. The color is or probably, if you think about it, very similar to what you all approved for the Vincent Funeral Home. That kind of a character. So it's a little bit of a, it's a Florida kind of a building, and light colors. So with that, there are Phyllis Koulianis is our Vice President of Archives, thank you, and also John Terrapini, and who's on our board for he's chair of the Jitney Committee on our board. So anyway, it's a big team effort, and it's the first time I can think of where I had the staff say that then you say this was going to be a fun project. So anyway, we're pleased by that. So if there's anything I can answer, I'll be happy to do that.
Does the committee have any questions? No, as well.
Just the color of the roof. Is there,
Let me go
I
back.
don't know, the color of the roof, looking at the picture with the, I don't know,
Is it on the
of the
board?
train station?
The color board that you have? I thought that was the
Yeah.
color.
This is a color board,
It's a
Okay.
light green.
generally.
Yeah.
So light green, the thought was, of course, you kind of want to say, well, what would they have done back then? Well, it probably would have all been the same roof, but we're trying to separate it from,
Oh, okay.
we're trying to say this is the historic building. This is a building that's 2022 or 23, hopefully 23. Maybe in 22, but so we're trying to make that clear separation between them.
Okay.
Anybody else? Okay, is there any other public comments on this? Okay.
And ma'am, if I could just remind you to state your name and your address for the record, please.
Sure. Good evening. My name is Cindy Terrapini. I live at 22 North Spring Boulevard. I previously served on this board with one of you. Got a lot of new members. So I just wanted to tell you a little background about the Jitney itself that you may not know. This effort today and the great design that Eddie has done is a culmination of a 10-year effort. Sometime in late 2011, Mr. Ypsilantes, who owned the Jitney, approached my husband and said, gosh, I'd really like to donate the Jitney to the Historical Society. I've had people who want to buy it. I don't want to sell it. It was my father's, and I'd really like to donate it. So the Historical Society began talking about it. We went down and saw it. It had been in a garage at the Sponge Docks since 1951. You can imagine the state of repair that was in. Actually, here's a couple of postcards.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
It was a significant effort to even get it out of the garage, quite frankly, because the tires weren't operating. I mean, there was nothing operating on it at the time. So in May 2012, the Historical Society Board accepted the donation. At the time, I was president of the Historical Society, and I signed the papers with Mr. Ypsilantes on December 7th, 2012. Between April 2013 and the summer of 2015, Mark and Wayne Hancock renovated the jitney in full to the pictures that you see today. And that green was the original color from what based on their research. And then the really key thing happened was the raising of the money. So we had targeted that we wanted to raise at least $35,000, which was the bid estimate that we had from the Hancocks. But we ended up raising $45,000 in this small community from over 43 major donors, families in the community, and actually one of them was the city of Tarpon Springs, who also contributed $1,000, which we're very grateful for. The people that did this primarily were my husband, who did a lot of the fundraising, also Boogie Palmer, Anita Protus, and Kenny Henderson. Some of you may know those folks as well. The city, after it was renovated, the city graciously agreed to store it and has been stored on city property for 7 years. As Mr. Hoffman mentioned, because it's in a city building, it's difficult to get it out on the weekend, or if you just want to, if it needs to be run for maintenance, you can't do that on the weekend or in the evening. So we always had a vision of some kind of a storage location that would not just be a storage place to keep it safe, but a place where we could kind of advertise what a great thing the Historical Society had done with this renovation, and what a great donation we got from Mr. Ypsilantes. I believe the display garage meets the design guidelines, and it certainly is consistent with the train depot. And it's such a great connection, because then when people see that and they realize that, oh yeah, they can go inside to the train depot and learn more about the history of Tarpon Springs. So it's just a great connection. Photo opportunity, selfies, you get the picture. Like I said earlier, it was the culmination of 10 years of effort by this Historical Society, an all-volunteer board, all-volunteer association. And again, I think Eddie's design is just a perfect connection and perfect location for that. So definitely request your approval of this application tonight. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good evening, board members. Anita Protus, 901 Bayshore Drive. The history of this jitney is very strong and very important in Tarpon. And it wasn't just for the Greek community, it was for the community wide. Women would get on to go to Publix, get their groceries, get off at the church corner, go where they needed to go to get to their homes, and then it would go into Greek town and bring the residents back uptown. Years ago, in the history papers that I have, it told about when they came up to Tarpon from the Key West, Miami area during the sponging. And they saw the early jitneys and went back, and that's when the early Cubans, very early in Miami, made jitneys and started using them. And when the jitney was restored, there was an article that said that Miami is sorry that they don't have them anymore. And the main reason is they can't find one. And the second is it's too crowded with cars and the traffic is too dangerous down there. So as you go through southern communities, even here in Florida, and you go by funeral homes, you see these glass buildings where they have the early hearse in there, they have the early carriages in there, and this is what we wanted in Tarpon Springs for this. It is the only one, I think, in the state of Florida, and we're very fortunate to have it. And when we would go and ask for donations, there was no pulling or trying to convince people. A jitney is still here in Tarpon Springs. I remember being on Chaliki's jitney, getting the money in a cigar box because they didn't have a money stand there. But it is something very important to Tarpon, and I'm very thankful to Mrs. Terrapini, when she's president, working, and the group that worked very hard to raise the money. And like I said, it wasn't hard. People gave. They were happy. And we're very lucky to have Eddie Hoffman design it for us with his name on it, because people know who Eddie is. So I urge you to please support this and pass it for another great item for Tarpon Springs in the historical realm of the community. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any more public comment?
Good evening. My name is John Terrapini, 22 North Spring Boulevard. As Eddie said, I sit on the Historical Society board with he and Phyllis, and I think it's just as important to know that I went through second grade through high school with Eddie and University of Florida, so we've been friends a long time. And he really has been a great contributor to the community, and the design of this is a legacy to himself, but to his dad too, who was a great contributor and mentor to the Historical Society, and was the Safford House. We wouldn't have the Safford House today if it weren't for Mr. Hoffman Sr., Eddie's dad. So I wear a few different hats on the approach. I'm obviously in favor of the certificate of appropriateness for the structure, but for a lot of reasons. The building has, the jitney has statewide historical significance, as has been alluded to. I was a past president of the Florida Trust for Historic Preservation, and I could tell you that this would be an award-winning event for the trust, and maybe we'll get an award for that. On a local level, I was president of the Main Street Association many times, chairman of the Chamber of Commerce. I own property downtown. I have a store downtown. So from a local level it's a great thing to have something else. People are always coming into the stores and saying, what is there to do downtown? What can we do? And this is just one more, I mean, there's lots to do, but this is just one more thing to keep people in town for a little longer and have them circulating around town. But there's one really big thing that hasn't been mentioned tonight, and that's the city's contribution. The city budgeted $100,000 in this year's budget to build the building that Eddie so graciously designed. So I just want Mark LaCouris and the former commission to be acknowledged and recognized for their foresight and seeing that this is a great project. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Is there any other comments? Okay, I'm going to close the public comments. I think we can move on to motion. Do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion. I make a motion that we accept application 22-48, 160 East Tarpon Avenue as presented.
I'll second.
Okay, seconded. Any more discussion? Okay, hearing none. Can we have a vote?
Ms. Ryan?
Yes.
Ms. Hallett?
Yes.
Mr. Mrozinski?
Yes.
Mr. Sprecher?
Yes. Thank you very much.
Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much.
Mr. Hoffman.
It's gonna be fun.
It'll be fun.
Yeah.
Okay,
Thanks.
we're going to move on to the last one. This is 2249. This is at 230 Hibiscus Street. Placement of a shed in the back. Do we have a report from staff?
Yes, we do. So this is application 2249. The applicant is Patricia Hill, and it's for 230 Hibiscus Street. Here's the location of the subject property at the southeast corner of Hibiscus and Cypress Streets. Here's the location of the property just outside of the National District and just inside of the local historic district. And the applicant is seeking a certificate of approval for the installation of a 10 by 12 wooden shed at the rear of the property. It includes a high wind resistant shingled roof and hurricane straps. While it's considered a temporary structure, it's going to be rather sturdy. The property itself is a frame vernacular, and it is contributing. Here's the photo from the Florida Master Site file, taken in 2009. And this slide shows the location of the property on the 1909 Sanborn. I should go back and tell you a little bit about some of the interesting architectural details of this cute little cottage. The house has been resided, and the windows have been replaced, but it has stamped metal shingles for the roof, a front gable porch, and the most distinctive feature would be the side jerkin head roof that you can see here so prominently in this photo. Here's a slide just showing the specifications of the proposed shed. It's all in your packet and staff report. These are some photos provided by the applicant of the actual shed. This slide is provided by the applicant. It is not to scale, but it gives you a general idea conceptually of where they're seeking to locate the shed. These were taken recently. This is a photo from Hibiscus Street. This is facing southeast on Cypress Street. And this shows the proposed location of the shed at the end of this shell driveway here. Just another photo of where the shed would be located. This is showing a potential for where you could see the shed. You could potentially see the shed from Hibiscus Street, but it would likely not be highly visible from Hibiscus. And this long, boring slide tells you about the relevant code, and accessory uses are permitted in all zoning districts. And this is considered a storage structure and a temporary structure, even though, as I said, it would be constructed to standards. In all residential districts, they can exceed 200 square feet, which this shed does not. But it would need to be located 5 feet from the side and rear lot lines, which the original conceptual plan did not show. So I've kind of did a more to scale, not exactly to scale, picture of how they could construct the shed on their property. So your standard of review, again, new construction consistency, is it consistent with the primary structure, considering that it would be a wood structure? And it's similar to other accessory structures found in the district. I feel that it would be. It's consistent with the neighborhood character and context. The new construction home right next door to it is a similar style. It's built, and all of the houses around it are smaller wood homes. On the other side of Cypress Street, there is a multifamily property, but due to its location, it doesn't really have extreme height or anything, and again, it's not located in the district. So the shed is 10 by 12, and I believe the height is 10 and 2 inches, so it would be clearly subordinate to the primary structure. And then I believe it adheres to the Secretary's guidelines, particularly it's not going to destroy anything, and if it were removed, it wouldn't damage any of the integrity of the primary historic structure. And as I said, it would be constructed in conformance with City Code, Florida Building Code, and overall balances the goals, objectives, policies of the comprehensive plan. So here's just some of the relevant guidelines from the Design Guideline Review Manual. It's stating that accessory structures need to be located at the rear or side of the property. In this particular case, since it's considered a prefabricated, non-permanent shed, it needs to be located at the rear, which it would be. It's small in scale, and it's congruous with the style of the primary structure. So, based on those findings, and as I expounded in the staff report, staff would recommend approval of application 2249 with the following conditions. The building permit will need to be revised to show the appropriate setbacks, and all required site setbacks need to be met. And then that the certificate of approval would expire within 3 years if a building permit is not issued. This was publicly noticed, and the neighbor next door at 112 Cypress Street did give me a call, and I discussed it with him when I was out there doing a site visit, kind of showed him how it was going to work and how it was going to be set back from his property line. He didn't send any formal comments on it, but I think he was clear on it and okay with it. So,
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, does the applicant want to say anything?
Hi, I'm Patricia Hill, and I have stage fright, and with your permission, my partner will read a letter that I had prepared for you. Is that okay?
Yes, that'll be fine.
This is Tim Garson. He's my partner.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, good evening.
Good evening, sir.
My name's Tim Garson. I live at 230 Hibiscus Street. I tend to be loud, so I've had more speaking in front of people than Tricia has. I don't know if everybody got.
Yes.
So I don't know if you've read the
Yes, we have.
the letter. We've done what we can to try and find something. There were certainly much less expensive tool sheds anywhere. We tried to find something that would be, more in keeping with the historical district, that we live in, and be an asset to the property and the neighborhood and the historical aspect of Tarpon Springs itself in choosing this particular shed and design and everything. It's already, I don't know if, it's basically, it's already constructed. It's not like somebody's coming out to build it on site. It's just a matter of going through all the procedures to get approved, and then have it, the shed manufacturer will deliver it and anchor it and so forth to to set it up. But it's already an existing building. That's why we were able to get the pictures of it that Tricia was able to give to Patricia over here when she first did the application and so forth. But anybody have any questions or anything?
Do I hear any questions? No?
Well, thank you
Okay,
for your
thank you very much.
consideration. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. I think you did a good job.
Right.
Getting a shed that fits in very well.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Yes, want to congratulate you on that. Okay, do we have a motion?
I'm sorry, Mr. Chair, but even though there's no one else in the audience, we still have to open it up for public comment for purposes
Oh,
of the
okay.
record.
I was wondering about that.
Yes, sir.
Public comments? Hearing none? Okay, do I hear a motion?
Oh, I'll make a motion
Okay.
for application 2249, 230 Hibiscus Street, placement of the shed, but it would have to be with the recommendations of the setbacks by the staff.
Right.
Yeah. So I recommend, we approve.
Okay. Do I hear a second?
For purposes of the record, I'm so sorry, are you recommending, is your motion that it be approved as presented?
It's presented with the recommendation of
Of staff?
the staff, yes.
Understood.
On
So,
the setbacks.
understood. So
Okay.
the motion on the floor then is recommendation for approval as presented by staff with the applicable setback restrictions.
Right.
Got it. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll second.
Oh, jeez, thank you.
That's what you were looking for, right?
Exactly.
All right.
Okay. Okay, can we have a vote, or any discussion first? Okay, hearing none. Do we have a vote?
Ms. Ryan?
Yes.
Ms. Hallett?
Yes.
Mr. Rosinski?
Yes.
Mr. Sprecher?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you very
Good.
much.
Enjoy your shed.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Oh, you were. But you're not getting it from Tough Shed. Oh, you were.
Okay, is there any more comments from the,
Is it?
do you have any comments from the staff?
No staff comments.
This is easier than the roof.
Oh, Jesus.
Mine's
Uh,
a art studio.
Do we have any comments from the board? Any discussions or anything like this? Okay, it's 7:25. Calling this meeting adjourned.
Wow.
Okay, thank you guys very much.
Great,
Thank you.